I mean, when we say we are the co-creator with life, that what you tell yourself is literally what you become, and what we put out, the vibration at which we're living, is what we get back. That's just physics. So it really is, whether you know it or not, you are creating your reality. So that's why I also say that the healing journey is a self empowerment journey.
Welcome back, everyone, to It's a Matter of Speaking, a podcast for leading voices in the industries of health, wealth, relationships, whatever. We interview a bunch of leading voices, pillars of possibility for us, myself, you watching this, the collective whole. We understand the message they have in their heart, the masteries they have in their mind, and what they've done to get it out to the world in hopes that we, one, educate some people that find it cool, and two, maybe inspire a few other people to say, hey, I want to take a step at my own mastery and message, and they did it, I can do it too. That's our hope. I'm our host, Dylan. This is episode 36. We're going to speak with Summer Jean today. Summer Jean's awesome. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She's the owner of Agami Karma Therapy, is a multi-talented professional dedicated to blending Western psychology and Eastern philosophy. We talk about that a lot in today's podcast. Her expertise lies in healing trauma, grief, deep-seated fears, and assisting individuals through major life transitions. She excels at helping clients remove obstacles, reframe negative thought patterns, and release stagnant emotion, ultimately embodying an authenticity in mind, body, soul balance. Know anyone that might need that? Summer guides individuals from a state of imbalance back to a state of balance, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, so they can live from a place of genuine joy, ease, fulfillment. She's a professional of modalities such as internal family systems, cognitive behavioral therapy. We talk a lot about that. Sound therapy, yoga therapy, and meditation. Summer meets each unique individual, guides them into their higher state of self-awareness, growth, and empowerment. She's awesome. The best way that I describe Summer Jean is like if you had a sister that's just cool, down-to-earth, intelligent, philosophical hippie that's easy to talk to, that can help change your life. We talk about fortitude and self-discipline, what it means to be a leading voice, of following your passions and realizing that sometimes it's not going to make sense until years later, and that's totally okay. We talk about her 4 V's, virtues, values, victories, and vision. That's going to be exactly what she's talking about on the TEDx stage at Johns Hopkins the day this probably comes out. So yeah, I really do hope you enjoy. I'm going to pass it over to myself in just a second, right before I do an ad read. This podcast is brought to you by Leader, used to be Speaker Mastermind, used to be Thought Leader, used to be Idea Collective. Leader is designed to help people get their authentic message out to the world through the power of speaking and business building, showing you the business of speaking, showing you the business of creating your own coaching and consulting offer, landing a TEDx talk. They have helped over 700 people land TEDx talks around the world. Summer is now one of them, and thousands more people speak on virtual and physical stages worldwide. On top of that, we have a business accelerator program and an inner circle program that teaches people the scalable, sustainable, authentic way to build their business so you're not one of those slimy people that you see online and you're like, how are you successful? You can be authentically you and do it as well. It's one of the things Leader teaches. So if you have a message in your heart, if you have a mastery in your mind and you want some help to get it out there, we have a completely free webinar you can check out in the description below. And then while you're down there, go ahead and like and subscribe if you dig this stuff. It helps us get our message out to other people. Let us beat those guys and gals that just seem weird. Maybe I'm weird too. That being said, let's pass it over to me and Summer. What do you got to say, Dylan? There we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to It's a Matter of Speaking, a podcast for leading voices in the arenas of health, wealth, and relationships. Today, we're going to talk about health, probably going to talk about relationships as well. As you can all see watching, I am dressed pretty cool. Backwards hat, Patagonia. The reason for that, I am talking to someone who is pretty cool. Summer Jean is in Leaders TEDx program as well as our Business Accelerator program. We're going to talk about her talk. We're going to talk about her coaching practice. But most importantly, we're going to talk about her message of combining Western psychology, Eastern philosophy to incredible modalities to help people, specifically high-level creatives. All that said, Summer Jean, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Dylan. And
And
I want to say, I did notice how good you look today.
thank you. It's all Patagonia stuff. My wife got off. It's this new app where you can basically sell stuff and then you collect points and trade them in. So I forget what it's called. You though, you're getting ready for your TEDx talk next week, correct?
Woo! I am.
And that is going to be where, Summer Jean?
Yeah, it's in Baltimore, Maryland at
Yep.
Johns Hopkins University.
I was gonna say, ooh, Baltimore, cool. John Hopkins, the place where like psychedelic research started, really in the United States, right? Or it
Oh,
really flourished.
yeah, game changer for what we're experiencing now at psychedelics for therapy.
I love it. So
For
excited to talk.
cancer, for depression, for I mean, for so much beyond just psychedelic assisted therapy. What they've done with the field of cancer, it's insane.
I'm so excited to be able to have a podcast where we can talk openly about this stuff. We do not condone it. We are not doctors. We might talk about it. But more importantly, I grew up Catholic and now recovering Catholic, still seeing certain areas of the religion I like. I strayed away from it and I got into Eastern religions, like studied
Mhm.
with Hare Krishna monks, studied the Bhagavad Gita, went through the Tao Te Ching, went through the Analects of Confucius, monkey journey to the West for Buddhism in China. I just love Eastern philosophy. You
Yeah.
are bringing this into your work with Western psychology. And for me, the first question I always start with is, what does it mean to be a leading voice? Now, for you,
Mhm.
the arena of being able to mesh these two, speak about it at John Hopkins on a TEDx stage, speak about it on a podcast like this. It's a big responsibility. It's a big non-dominating power. For you, what does it mean to be a leading voice in your arena?
Mm. You're giving me chills.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Doing it.
Honestly, when I keep going over what does it mean for me, the thing that comes forward is fortitude.
Mm.
Fortitude and having a self-discipline of knowing what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Mm.
And those that work with me, that is something that I say all the time, know what you're doing and why you're doing it. And with that, the consistent self-discipline and fortitude is what leading is all about.
I love it.
Mhm.
I always love this answer because I love the question because it's like at the heart of what all of our clients stand for, being of like having
Mm,
their voice heard, which is scary as hell, right? Coming down to, and I don't mean this because I agree with you, I don't mean any harm by this, but like fortitude and self discipline. It's crazy how it comes down to the simple stuff. It's one of those things where it's simple, but it's not easy. What do you do to keep your message, keep the self discipline at the forefront of your mind? Like, do you have rituals, routines, common practices? Like, what is it that you do that might help some of our listeners?
yeah. What I do, I start my morning
Mm-hmm.
with my commitment to what my day is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I start my morning, and this may be a little personal, but I wake up early so that I can spend at least 30 minutes in the shower,
Mm-hmm.
just sitting in the warm water and going over my gratitudes, my victories, and my intentions for the day. Like with the warm water, which is really important to me, heat and water, I sit in meditation.
Mm-hmm. I
Mhm.
love that. I talk about shower thoughts all the time, and I'm really excited to talk about the victories in your 4Vs later in this podcast because it's been
Yeah.
big for me since you and I chatted 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago in San Diego. Just so you know, I've been it came through. I'm curious of
Yeah.
your story now, right? Because
Mhm.
it's like we're this center ground. You're this center ground of taking Western psychology, Eastern philosophy, and blending them together. I'm going to continue to come back to that on today's podcast.
Yeah.
Which one was it that started for you? Like in the beginning of your journey, which one came first? When did it come through? How did it come through? Like what was your initial journey?
That is such a good question because it's a little bit different. I often get asked how I started
Mm-hmm.
this, which is not which one, but it's going, how did you even get on this path? And my answer can only be that I was born,
Hmm.
So it's like, I'm not really sure which one came first. I can tell you that it really was a self dive into my own suffering
Hmm.
that I began to look outside of me for real, tangible reasons why no, not only I was suffering, but humanity suffered. It's like and so I studied like Mahatma Gandhi. I started studying Malcolm X when I was 13. That was a big pivotal year for me. I read the autobiography of both of them, and I just really started diving into these different leaders,
Hmm.
So I don't know which one came first, Western or Eastern. I knew for me that I wanted to be of service. And in Western world, that meant psychology and having licensures.
Hmm.
So I first started studying psychology, um, metaphysics in middle school. And then high school, I started taking my psychology courses. I took my first college course in high school, which was early childhood development. And it was 3 hours we'd study children. And that just it's always so fascinating to me, the human experience.
Yeah.
While also studying Mahatma Gandhi and really getting into history of India and again, just wild.
Yeah. Would you say it was Mahatma Gandhi, India, Hinduism? That was your first big Eastern philosophy pillar?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there
I would
anything that gravitated you towards that? I don't want to say religion, but way of life.
you know, so I started studying yoga um in my late teens.
Mm-hmm.
In my early 20s, I started working towards really taking courses on it and becoming certified and teaching it.
Mm-hmm.
But in hindsight, I was raised with a grandma. I called her Granny.
Mm-hmm.
She would just go into her headstand and hold it for like 5 minutes. She was doing yoga poses, but she never called it yoga. When I could look back, she was the one teaching me how to use herbs for healing when we were sick,
Mm-hmm.
how to use baking soda to brush your teeth with, how to dry flowers. Her How I was raised with my granny was yoga. It was connection, it was union with God. And so it's like that stuff was actually just in me.
Mm. I see a lot of we were talking TEDx talks before we went live here. I was curious because you grew up with this Eastern way of life. Yeah, maybe she wasn't reading Eastern
On one
religions to
side.
you. Yeah, so you kind of grow up with this. It's very similar to me getting ready for my TEDx talk, growing up with my grandparents as well on one of my sides,
Yeah.
and having my creativity nourished and like this true passion analogous to your, Eastern way of life, but then living in a Western culture, we start to ask ourselves, okay, how can I fit in this machine that's moving forward, right? I
Yep.
did it through sales and consulting. That's when you came in, even in middle school, you're saying, hey, I'm going to study metaphysics. I'm going to study psychology. I'm going to go into early childhood development. And then you go into college to study that, to I imagine be a psychologist.
Mhm.
Do you remember then? Because I hear what you're saying, where it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
When do you have that moment of clarity of like, no, I'm going to take my mastery and what I've grown with a passion and I'm going to merge them together to help people?
It didn't come of how it would make sense until years later.
Hmm.
So I was constantly um, working on one thing while also studying another thing.
Hmm.
So I always think of it like um, I of a tree. It's why my logo behind me, Agami Karma Therapy, is a tree. Is because in my meditations I would see these visions of trees,
Hmm.
and it's really like I would go off. I'm the trunk. My roots are firmly grounded into earth, but my branches, as I was growing, developing, a personality was being formed, my brain was being formed, is I would go off in these branches, and so the integration part is I would study psychology, and then I would read metaphysics, and then I would study astrology, and then I would go into Eastern philosophy, Stoicism. That's another thing that I love
Hmm.
philosophy, Plato, Socrates, Marcus Aurelius. So I would go and dive into them. It's like it was all happening simultaneously. I can't say it was this and then this and then this. It was just I would follow my passion into this branch, and then it would lead into this branch. And pretty soon, I mean, now where I'm at is to really own I'm an integrative psychotherapist, and the modalities that I use are incredible, you
And if
know?
and if you don't mind me asking right there, I love it because it's for you. It's like you're following your passions. One of the biggest things I just wrote down is like you're following your passions. Yes, they're all within the same tree, but they're a little bit different with each of these branches. And it doesn't make sense until years later. And I think a lot of
Yep.
people they follow this passion and then it's like, okay, when's it gonna hit? When's it gonna hit? When's it gonna hit? It's like the joy is following your passions. The sense that it all makes comes later.
Yeah.
You said integrative, and we were talking to psychedelics. I have friends now going, just graduated Wayne State in social work and wants to go into integrative therapy. For those watching, when you say integrative, what do you mean by that?
It means I integrate different modalities. So one of the gifts that I have is that I get to meet the individual,
Mm.
literally meet them where they're at in their layers of what are like the onion. There's the autobiographical layer, and then the physical, mental, emotional, the subtle layers within our energetic system into the etheric, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I get to meet whoever's coming in and where they're at, where their blocks are, where their traumas are, where their wounds are, and then ascend them from that place.
Mm.
We all have our own blueprint. We're also uniquely designed that not one modality is right for everybody. I'm a psychedelic assisted therapist,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't say that psilocybin's for everybody. Cognitive
Agreed.
behavioral therapy, I start I start everything with cognitive behavioral that I've done over the last 20 years. I um I start everybody on the foundational talk of that because everybody can start with learning.
Mm-hmm.
We got to get on the same language. So integrative is that I integrate different modalities. I'm a sound therapist. I work with Tibetan singing bowls. Not everybody is ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody can go to psychedelics. Not everybody wants to. I'm a yoga therapist and meditation instructor. It's like not everybody wants to move their body. That's just
Mm-hmm.
not an interest.
Or
So,
on the other side, not everyone that I've seen that really wants to get into present moment awareness wants to sit for it cross-legged to learn it.
yeah,
I know big for me was qigong and tai chi because as like an ADHD or ADD brain, whatever the heck society labels me as, I like to move, right?
yeah.
So being able to use my breath and move was huge for me. So I think I heard the answer, but I want to make sure because integrative is like there's so many different modalities that someone could have for healing, and not every path is right for them, aka why they go to someone that's learned about almost every path to help them. But with all these different paths they could take, is there a foundational practice to like it's almost like that self-assessment of what's best for me? Did you say it was cognitive behavioral therapy?
Yeah, I start everybody with CBT. And it's my
CBT,
yep,
everyone. Go ahead.
cognitive behavioral therapy. And because I start everybody with the understanding of how the mind and the body are constantly assessing how to be in alignment,
Hmm.
right? And how our actions and our behaviors fit into that triangle. So I start everybody getting on a foundational level so that we have the same language, because I can't assume that we have language. Like, I'm working with two psychiatrists right now. One is in Nepal and one lives somewhere in Montana. And I'm not going to assume just because they're psychiatrists that they even have a base knowledge of how the mind and the body work. So I'm
Hmm.
going to, I start everybody with this understanding that triangle.
Uh, uh,
But then the modalities, as we get deeper and deeper, that's what begins to grow into the integrativeness.
you say
Mhm.
that triangle. If you can double up on that, maybe I'm curious. Anyone watching, maybe you can give us a little bit of one free lesson. What is something that someone could ask themselves to like really to just get kicked off, or what is something they could do to
Mhm.
get kicked off in their journey and understanding what path could be best for them if they're in the healing journey, which, let's be honest,
Absolutely.
almost all of us are.
The one practice I would say, the name of the game is raising your self-awareness into who you are and what the mind is having believe who you are versus who you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay, so
subjective or subjective reality.
yes.
Yeah.
Illusion versus delusion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the first thing that we have to catch is our inner narrative. It's our storyteller, it's our meaning maker, it's our thoughts. If you want to change your life, you have to change your thoughts.
Hmm.
So thoughts come with your belief system, your core beliefs about yourself, someone else, or the world around you, your judgments, your expectations, your memories, images, visions. This is where we could insert dream work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really learning, okay, who am I and what am I telling myself?
Hmm.
It's increasing self awareness. So that's why I start with CBT, and then we give them homework. And the homework is designed to stop and ask certain questions of, what am I telling myself? What's the story? What's the meaning I'm giving this? And then we go into increasing the self awareness of how the body responds
Hmm.
and understanding the neuroscience between when a neuron fires into the next neuron, into the next neuron, it creates a neural pathway. From that neural pathway, these neurotransmitters are being released, which is the neurochemical that then triggers a neuropeptide.
Mm-hmm.
Neuropeptide goes down into the body, it then triggers a hormone. The hormonal response is our feelings, body sensations, and emotions. So then we have a feeling, an emotion to what we're thinking. So the body and the mind are either working towards coherence or in a state of discoherence. Yeah.
Because
So
then I'd
really,
imagine those emotions then, whatever it is, triggers the next thought or puts an interpretation on the next thought that comes through. So it's this cycle.
yeah, and I argue that we're addicted to our emotions. We become addicted to our feelings and emotions. It's like when you just see an angry person out there
Yeah.
and they're just angry and you can just feel that energy.
Mm-hmm.
That is their personality, that's their embodiment, it's kind of who we become. So if we have, back to the brain, if we have a certain thought, story, um, neural pathway that has formed over and over and over, we are designed for efficiency.
Hmm.
So when that chemical has been dumped into our body so many times, the body just releases it and says, "Oh, I know where this is going. We don't have to take the time to think about it. I'm just going to flood the body with cortisol and noradrenaline because I know it's going to be anger." So now the body goes, "Hey, brain, we're feeling all of this. You don't have to think about it. Let's go."
Yeah.
So
It's
we
so
become addicted to certain states of being, whether that's the victimhood state, trauma, or addictions, literally, of I can't handle this and I gotta have a drink.
yeah. It's funny that you say, or ironic, I should say, that you say that we're programmed for efficiency. Because what I'm hearing from you is what this, I also think as a society, we're programmed for efficiency, right? It's like just do the most efficient thing. How quick can I get a result? Do it that way. Because what I'm hearing from you is like coming back to what's the first step? It's observing and following those thoughts. And I imagine for a lot of people, it's like you can find that in present moment awareness practices, whether that's meditation or yoga, but
Yeah,
it takes time. And I think what happens is when people start this journey with healing journey, they're like, how quick? I mean, we live in a society where people are using TikTok, us included, where it's like, give me an answer in 90 seconds, right? So
yeah,
someone starts this healing journey and they're like, okay, I meditated twice. nothing's coming up, right? It's like it's keeping that practice so we can observe these thoughts. Because a big thing that you talk about, you and I have chatted about it before, is that we are co creators of our life. I would love to know what you mean by that.
Yeah.
And I want these people to know.
Oh, yeah, man. We are co-creators with life.
Ooh,
Yeah.
ooh.
Really, again, metaphysics.
Mm-hmm,
It's all energy. And part of my mission is to bring back energy. It's to bring back a spiritual language within metaphysics that whether you're conscious or not, there is the law of cause and effect happening. There are these certain universal spiritual laws
mm-hmm,
that just are. So the truths are that there is the law of attraction, there's the law of balance, there's a law of correspondence. I mean,
mm-hmm,
I could go on with these 12 universal laws that really, I mean, when we say we are the co creator with life, that what you tell yourself is literally what you become because of what I just explained.
mm-hmm,
And what we put out, the vibration at which we're living, is what we get back.
mm-hmm.
That's just physics. So it really is, whether you know it or not, you are creating your reality. So that's why I also say that the healing journey is a self empowerment journey, you know?
I love it because you and I were talking in San Diego when we met at one of our leader events.
Mhm.
Even if someone breaks down the word karma, a lot of people are like, karma is just what goes around comes around, and it's this force that's giving you. It's like, no, when you break down karma to its Sanskrit word, it just means action. So the
Action, man. Yeah.
actions that we take is that frequency, that vibration that we put out. So when you're saying, I really like that correction you gave me. I started, it's like we're co-creators, not of our own life. We're co-creators with life. I'm
Yeah.
one of the creators. The other creators right in this area.
Yeah.
So ways to get used to that energetic flow and to really own our co-creator role. You talk about the 4 V's. You
Yeah.
already said one earlier, victories, which I do every night now.
Woo.
4 of them.
Yeah.
Tell me about these 4 V's. Is it going to be part of your TEDx talk, by the way?
This is the TEDx talk.
Oh, good. Tell me about it for people that can watch early.
Yeah. So the 4 V's, I began noticing that our culture does not have the language that we're speaking right now.
Hmm.
It's missing it. We're grasping at empowerment. We talk about it all the time, but we really don't get it. And so bringing it back to the 4 V's, which is values, virtues, victories, and vision. It's nothing that I have come up with on my own.
You came up
this
with these words? I'm kidding. Yeah, continue.
this literally is ancient stoicism. This is our great thought leaders within our philosophers and the higher thinkers.
Mm-hmm.
It to me it gets so exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So the 4 V's, when you put that into practice and you really start asking, this is what I started noticing, not within our culture, but within the clients that were coming into me, is when I would ask, like, what are your greatest values? They didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know what they most value in this life: hobbies, passions, what they're willing to sacrifice for, what they're willing to live for. So it's really going, okay, what's my greatest value? What are my virtues? People have to ask what virtues mean.
I was actually, that was one of the questions because as I
Oh,
go through this, I'm like, oh, victories, I'm doing. Ooh, values, I think I have down. I want to talk of the other two. What is when you think of values and virtues? What's the main difference you help people with?
okay. So virtues is like the core essence of who you are and your morals.
Mm-hmm.
It's your inner compass of right and wrong,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Values are what give your life meaning. Okay. So virtues are your morals, your ethics, what you stand for.
Mm-hmm.
Values are the things that you most uphold because it gives you so much meaning.
Hmm.
Family, friends,
Yeah.
your work, your hobbies, whatever that is.
Yeah, it's almost, it seems like virtues is like really the core piece of it, and then values is how I can interact with this world to then fuel that virtue. Am I hearing that correctly?
Sure, that works. I'll take that.
Okay. And then okay, and then the victories. What's one thing you tell people like your clients to do when it comes to victories? Because you told me, and I've been using it, and I love it.
Yeah. I teach everybody to start their morning with gratitudes and to end their evening with victories.
And I
Mhm.
remember you told me what are the just four victories? Was it four victories or three or five or whatever the number is? I think I chose four. Just every night I'll have like a shitty day, and I go to bed now, and I'm like, okay. I still do, but I used to only be like I would thank the Godhead in my vision of them. I'd say, hey, thank you for the good and the bad of the day, because for me it's just like, hey, bad's okay. Still do that, but now I say, what were my four victories? Of, oh my gosh, I had a really good comment, and it's just like going to bed right after that,
Absolutely.
resetting that like that my mind of like, oh, it was so tough, but I have these victories, which means I'm making progress. Because a lot
Yeah,
of us here are good. Go ahead.
here's what our brain does. Again, it goes back to that efficiency, which we're designed for survival.
Hmm.
Okay. So victories take you out of the default mode network, which is the I, me, my, who, what, where, when, why. And it's looking for the things that didn't go right, that you didn't catch, that you didn't get right, that it's looking for all the negatives.
Oh.
It's the negativity bias, right?
Mhm.
So victories switch that into your celebrations. They're your I did it moments. And if we don't intentionally pull that into our awareness, pull that into our cognition, pull that into our storyteller, we miss it. We
Hmm.
miss it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I, And I want to get to the other couple other questions because this has been super enjoyable. Thank you so much. And I'm so excited for your TEDx talk. If you're watching this, by the way, take a minute, pause this, drop your four victories. I'm going to choose four, if that's okay, Summer. Drop your four victories below. What have your four biggest victories of the day been? And we'll come back, check on them, and give you some love. Um, last V, vision. You talk about your dreamed vision. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. Your vision is where you get to, it just like gives me chills. Carl Jung talks about the golden shadow.
Hmm.
And the golden shadow is tapping into this really, it's tapping into the untapped potential that you have within you that you just are. When you start understanding that you are the co creator with life, and there are universal truths that just operate because it's physics energetically,
Mm-hmm.
you start realizing that you can turn on imagination and dream up whatever it is you want. Now, being a thought leader is to have the fortitude and discipline to start acting towards that dream, right?
Hmm.
So, my dream vision is that people start coming into literally back to the triangle mind, body, soul alignment. We start raising our consciousness, which the four V's help to raise self awareness and consciousness energetically. And we start kind of coming into a coherence within the collective consciousness.
Hmm.
That's my dream vision.
I love this, and so it really sounds like getting these like understanding it is one, right, and being able to listen to a podcast like this, then go a little bit further into Young studies and understand how there's so much out there that's working for us. That's one thing, but then the
Uh,
next thing
Always.
is then to act on it. Now, you say when people come to you, who tends to be the people that come to you the most? Who is it that you really enjoy working with for what you do?
Yeah. I love this question because honestly, over the years of me working for a mental health profit or nonprofit mental health center and then moving into private practice, over the last 15 years, it has changed.
Hmm.
And so now the people who are attracted to me are the people that have already a level of self awareness and really want to be at their dream state, but they're stuck. They don't they know where they wanna be, but they don't know how to get there, and they're stuck in their own cycles, or they're stuck in their own suffering, or they're stuck somewhere in their life,
Hmm.
whether that's health, wealth, or relationships. Usually for me, because, again, we're working towards the Agami Karma, which is future karma, that vision of who you wanna be. The people that come into me have some form of trauma.
Hmm.
We all have trauma. I mean, honestly, we all have trauma, but it's the getting over the energetic blocks.
Yeah, last one being trauma. It's funny because I was looking back. It's like that's how you started, right? When I said what came first, this Western psychology or Eastern philosophy, and you're like, I don't know, but you do know that you're like, I went through my own challenges, and then you had this ability to say, at a young age, I want to look deeper into this stuff, right? And it sounds like those are the same people that come to you and then want help. It's so fun as we create these offers where we have this mastery, you have this brilliance to help others that are at a place that you once were at. How do people find you? Because I see like a high level creative. You and I have talked in the past. I see like a high aware individual watching this podcast and being like, "This was cool." I gravitate towards it. I feel like I understand everything. It's almost like I wish I had words to say on, and she's doing it right now. They want to know Summer Jean further. How do people find you?
Mhm. Well, my website is Agami, Agami, Agami Karma Therapy. Mhm.
Right behind you.
I of all the social medias,
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning to really love TikTok.
Me too. Recently,
Yeah.
I love that. And what is
Yeah,
it?
it's
What is it? TikTok.
it's summer.gene2.
Summer.gene 2. The first
Yeah.
one wasn't good enough. And we'll put those links below
Yeah.
for anyone aware. We'll put them below.
Yeah. And then Instagram, sunflower for Om, O-M.
OM. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Now, Summer Jean, we're getting into what I call the uncomfort zone of the podcast. Uncomfort Zone brought to you by Leader. Check it out. Links below as well.
Mhm.
I truly think that everyone out there has this mastery, this message that they can get out to the world. It's their inner genius, innate genius to get out to the world. Stephen Pressfield talks about it in The War of Art. You see in The Big Leap. I'm gapping on the author's name. I'm so sorry. They talk about inner genius as well. I think everyone has that, but it's venturing into that uncomfort zone and versus what we're used to.
Mhm.
Couple of questions. Ego hat off for you. Why did you decide to get outside your comfort zone and do what you truly feel called to do? What was it that called you?
Yeah, honestly, it's because I knew I needed support,
Mm-hmm.
because I know where my strengths are and I know where my weaknesses are. And I'm really good at working with people in their darkest, most shamefulest, like shadows.
Mm-hmm.
But I needed help to have a structure to learn how to market what I'm good at.
Mm-hmm. Ooh,
So,
yeah. Hold
yeah.
on, Taylor. Taylor's right over here in Michigan with me. Yeah, I can. What was the biggest takeaway you got from Business Accelerator at Leader?
Yeah.
I asked her.
Oh, I don't even know where to start because I have so much love and respect for this program, and what it has done for me is build my own confidence in what I really do. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I had confidence, but now I get to speak on it, and it's like whether you decide to work with me or not, I know that I have the solution that will get you where you wanna go.
Mm-hmm.
And BA has given me that confidence to say, "Fine, I'm fine if you don't wanna work with me. You're but I know that I'll get you to where you wanna go."
Yeah, yeah. It's I love looking at
Ugh,
it that way because then our mindset, our emotions aren't tied to what someone says, and then that
yeah.
is so much more powerful full of an energy to see. Okay, back to the uncomfort zone. You got that? Perfect. Back to the uncomfort zone, and I think it's tough because it can feel judgmental, and I don't want us. That's why I always say ego hat off for it or ego hat on,
Mhm.
whatever. Personally, though, why do you feel most people don't get outside their comfort zone to pursue their genius, their masteries, their message?
Personally,
Yeah.
I feel like it's because, again, it's that self-empowerment,
Hmm.
and it's Okay, I gotta search for the words here. We don't really realize the value and the worth that each one of us have in that potential. Okay, so self empowerment is really being able to know the inner confidence, the inner esteem of our own worth and value. And so, yeah, I think that people stay comfortable doing what they know how to do
Mm.
because it's working, or
It's working enough.
it's working enough.
Yeah.
We have roles that we play. We have habits and patterns that we just don't have to think about. Um, so and I really, really believe that we don't have the virtues, the values and virtues of diving inside of us to say, is this what I really want to do with my life? Is
Mm.
this what's really being called to come out? Is this what I'm fully aligned in integrity? It's like we get so caught up in the things of the roles that we play, or the shoulds, the musts, the cultural programming. And, again, I just think we miss the target a little bit until we really sit in depth and go, am I ready to be uncomfortable, to
Mm.
go through my darkness to get to that golden shadow,
You
right?
can see me smiling because it gets me so excited to ask my last question then, which is like, what is if you could give Summer Jeans one piece of advice to someone who is on the precipice of getting outside that comfort zone? They haven't yet, but they're close. What would you tell
Mm, I would say faith over fear.
them?
Faith over fear. And I think faith is something that people don't often get, or have a resistance to, or don't really know. But it's faith is knowing what you put your trust into that's bigger than you. It doesn't
Mm.
matter what you call it, but we are all just energy beings having this human experience. And fear is part of it, because fear is the separator that will keep you safe no matter what.
Damn.
So, faith over fear.
I typically recap, and I don't want to right now because that was so good. But I'm gonna. Summer Jean, wow, thank you so much for being a part of this, for coming on the podcast. I took so much away. As you can see, anytime I look down, I'm just taking a bunch of notes. If you're watching, first off, like and subscribe. If you haven't done that, what the hell are you doing? On top of that, comment your biggest takeaway from today's podcast below. Maybe ask questions if you want. Any questions you have for Summer. Maybe you're saying, hey, something specific about me, though. How does it work here? Drop a comment below or a question below for Summer. I'm sure she'll check it out once this launches. Big takeaways I took today: the importance of fortitude and self-discipline, starting your morning with commitments, with gratitudes, understanding. I don't like calling it a morning routine because I feel like that's now a cliche, but a morning ritual, right? Yours being that nice hot shower, 30 minutes to meditate. We talked about your own journey, understanding psychology and weaving it with Eastern philosophy. What else did I write down? Um, Going towards what you love and knowing that it's probably not going to make sense until years later, but it's following those passions. Understanding that your mind and your body are constantly trying to communicate with each other, and they could be in a good state or they can be in this disassociative state, and ways to be able to tap in and start to rewire it. We talked about your 4 V's, which I love. If you're watching this, ask yourself what your values, what your virtues are. Go before you go to bed tonight. What were your 4 victories? And know your vision. We talked about your deep vision, and the last thing being finding support, like finding people that can help you with your shadow, to help you get out of that zone that might cause you to be stuck because it's easy right now. But finishing it with put your faith in something larger than your fears, and your
Yeah.
faith is what you put your trust in, that's bigger than you. I want to just crumple this up and throw it because I'm so excited, but I can't because I'm going to do the intro right after this. This was incredible. We're going to see everybody next week on the podcast. But one final Thank you from my heart center, Summer Jean, for who you are, what you stand for, and the message you have to give to the world.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for this time.
Not a problem. Everyone else, we'll see you a week from now. Take care and have a great weekend.